Alright guys, what's going on with the next episode? We are here in Silverstone for race number 11. It's a very important race for a lot of teams, and not only Williams, but Aston Martin and a lot of the other teams, because Silverstone basically is what started with F1. It's a very iconic track. And coming into this weekend, as we're showing on the screen now, we have some livery updates. First up, we have McLaren, their McLaren Chrome livery from RaceDepartment. These liveries are going to be the best adaptations as possible to the real-life adjustments, and some unrealistic, some realistic, like the McLaren one here. But next up, we have the Alpine dropping their pink and blue colors, their majority color fills, and they're going with more of a black Alpine, so kind of matching the Mercedes this season. And then last but not least, for Silverstone, we have Aston Martin. They're going with more of an Aramco sponsor type thing, more than Cognizant. And we'll have to wait and see what they can do. See if they can make that livery even better come season 2. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to this race, and we're going to get right into qualifying.
Less than one lap of fuel left now, the tank's pretty much empty.
Alright, so we took a chance here to save the extra set of soft tires, and we only get knocked out of Q1, or Q2 at that, by 3/10 of our current rival, Pierre Gasly, and in the Alpine. So P11, that's a decent start. I'm okay with that. We took the risk of waiting it out and only doing the double run there at the beginning of Q2, and it kind of paid off, because we're only about 3/10 off of Pierre Gasly, and that significant amount of time that we got at the end of Q1, about that second gap, was because we changed we dropped the tire pressures and we dropped our fuel load for a single lap hot lap. So that actually worked in our favor, and we did it again here, and we took that risk, and it was high enough to not be too far back from the top 10. So yeah, P11 start here in Silverstone. Let's get right to the main event.
You join us in the United Kingdom today, or Great Britain as it's alternatively known. Well, it's certainly a great day today as we welcome you to one of the crown jewels of British sports, a track of speed, history and drama. It's Silverstone. It's the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone Circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Johnson, Stroll, Ocon, Joe, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Bottas, Sargent, De Vries, and Yuki Tsunoda. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson, a lot of talented drivers out on the track today, but what will stand out for you?
My focus is 100% on the front of the grid. Like you said, we're seeing a lot of strong competition across those positions, so it would be super interesting to see the fight for that front spot. Personally speaking, I'm hoping for plenty of overtakes.
Okay, as you know, this is the team's home race, which means it's extra important for everybody in this team. They've got friends here, they've got family here, they're all in the grandstands watching, so let's go and put on a good show for them.
Alright, so we are pretty much hoping for a positive finish compared to where we're starting. So we're starting in P11, and we're probably going to drop our fuel load a little bit and play it safe. We might get some high-speed rivalries going on here, and maybe a yellow flag, maybe a red flag. We'll have to wait and see compared to what we had in Austria with the AlphaTauri. But we're going to go ahead and get right into this. We won't bother with you guys seeing that, and then we'll get right to the formation lap and get this race going.
Okay, good parking there, mate. Now we need to make sure we get a great launch as the race starts.
Alright, so here we are for our grid lineup. Pretty good start to our grid slot as our 5 red lights are on. And we are off to a pretty good start on these soft tires. The Alpine Gasly ahead of us slowing down a bit, and we're getting caught up behind Piastri. Letting off the gas like always to take an easy way into turn 1. A little bit of contact there with Alonso. That would have been preventable on our end, but had to fight with control over the vehicle through turns 1 and 2 as we're moving on to the first straight here. Ahead of Alonso, still in P10, a little bit of oversteer there coming onto the straight as you get to hear us going over the curb as we're close behind Gasly, so we're trying to stay as close as possible to him, but we are somewhat losing a bit of time coming around these corners, especially on the outside, as Alonso has the inside there. Coming to the back straight here on lap 1. Russell and Hamilton in the front row still locked out for P1 and P2 as we're coming into, I don't quite remember the name of this turn, but we're coming into Maggots and Beckett's here in Sector 2. You see we're losing quite a bit of time on Gasly, and Alonso is still right there side by side with us actually as we're coming out of Maggots and Beckett's to the next DRS zone. And pretty good momentum on the straights with these soft tires here with the Williams. So we lose a little bit more control there. Both Aston Martins still close behind us as the 2 McLarens ahead of us of Norris and Piastri. Gasly, our rival, bumping up to P7 through Sector 3. To round out the end of our first lap as we lose a little bit more control on these soft tires coming back onto the main straight. Moving on to lap 4 is when we actually get some more action. Alonso close behind, about a half second now as he has DRS. We're about 1.7 seconds behind Piastri, who is sitting at P9 currently. Gasly lost position against Norris. And Russell and Hamilton still holding strong in the lead for those Mercedes as Verstappen is in P3, Leclerc P4. We're coming onto the back straight here, and Alonso is within a half second, and he has some pretty good momentum on those hard compound tires as we're coming into the end of Sector 2, start of Sector 3 here on Maggots and Beckett. So we choose the inside line, try to defend it. He's going on the outside. There's a tiny bit of contact, a little bit of wheel spin there as we lose our line, and are trying to fight and defend our position here. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with Alonso as he ends up getting DRS on us, unfortunately, and the Haas and the other Aston Martin of Lance Stroll on the inside. A little bit of contact from Lance Stroll here. We were able to keep control as Alonso was able to make a move up into P10 as we got caught up against Stroll there. Little bold move from him, moving on the inside on those other set of soft tires that he's running. As we're now on to lap 5, and we lost 1 position so far against Alonso as we were fighting for it at the beginning of the race, if you remember that. Moving on to later in lap 5, coming out of Maggots and Beckett's, and now it's Ocon right behind us. And you can see the train of drivers behind us coming through Maggots and Beckett's into this Sector 3 straight. As Ocon has DRS, he's open, he makes a move. Stroll tries to make a move on the outside. You can see him on the inside in the mirror there. He does try to squeeze through. He was side by side at one point with us, but we managed to hold off and defend that position against him as we lose yet again another position against Esteban Ocon. As that's going to be running at the end of lap 5 as Lance Stroll gets a good launch out of that last corner and gets ahead of us. But Hulkenberg is close behind. He's less than 1/10 of a second as we're coming to the 100-meter mark, and we get spun by Hulkenberg in the Haas, trying to keep our line. So you can see the onboard here from Hulkenberg coming through the main straight, tries to make a move, had to back out a little bit, tries to hold the inside line. We're coming back across. I didn't feel the tire contact from him, but he ends up coming in contact with us, and we get spun out, and he didn't get a penalty for it. There's going to be the other, going back to us on the camera view as we're coming out of that spin, and we're dead last right now, and it's a full-on safety car. It was a virtual safety car when he came in contact with my car, but it's a full safety car, a little bit earlier than we would have liked for the hard tires that we wanted to swap over to. But I had to back off a little bit to try to give as much time as I could, because everybody, literally everybody, is coming into the pits for their one and only pit stop, and it's under safety car. So you can see the other Williams of Logan Sargent right there in front of the AlphaTauri. So we're coming in dead last into the pits, and majority of the teams are double stopping. I believe everyone did, as you can see the Alpine of, I believe, Ocon coming out behind us. As a lot of the cars are doing a little bit of ghosting, as you can see that he's swapping over to the mediums, and we are swapping over to the mediums as well. I just went with it because that's what the game felt like we were going to be able to do. So we ended up getting ahead of the Haas, and I believe in AlphaTauri as well. So we actually did make up a couple of positions because of everybody doing double stops. So you can see the Aston Martin there too, and I believe that was Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin that was behind us. As we're going to be reforming the grid here, going a little bit too far on the curbs. So we're trying to get back as we're moving on to lap 8 now for the restart of this race. Hulkenberg behind us. Let's hope he doesn't make the same mistake that he did when he spun us. Stroll, De Vries, and Magnussen in dead last, and our teammate Logan Sargent from that double stop up into P12. So that also puts Leclerc up into P2, splitting the Mercedes. Verstappen still holding up in P4, and his teammate Perez up in P9 as we are coming back to the race restart. Hit a little bit more, too much curb than I would have liked, so we didn't get that good of a restart. You can see the gap between ourselves and Tsunoda as Hulkenberg still holds strong behind us. As we try to get to grips with these medium tires, we couldn't quite get them up to temperature on this warm-up lap, trying to warm them up. We're trying to get those core temperatures up. That way we had better grips through these turns. But the second half of this race was definitely one to keep an eye out for the tire wear. As trying to catch up as much as we can. As Tsunoda a little bit late on the brakes here, as we're coming through Sector 2 now. Don't remember quite where the line is for the Sector 2, but coming back on the back straight. Good launch, and gaining a little bit of time, letting off a little bit of the gas, going wide a little bit here. As we're coming up to Maggots and Beckett's. I see a couple of position changes between Gasly and Alonso up there, fighting for P7, and I believe Perez and Ocon are as well. I believe it was Sainz are up there. P6 to P9 are fighting for positions pretty much. You can see the time frame is coming out pretty well behind Sonoda. Still trying to close in as best as we can for when we get DRS back. Doing a lot better through these last two corners as Hulkenberg has lost a little bit of time and Stroll is stuck behind him. So we got a lot of ground to make up in order to get up to the points. As we're moving on to lap 11 now, where we are finally able to try to make a move on Sonoda, making a dive bomb on the inside, braking late, and we actually hold that line and managed to get through without any contact. And next up is Guan Yu Zhou or Valtteri Bottas. They're pretty close against each other. Try to defend for position there as we're coming through Sector 2, but at the end of lap 11, we're basically fighting for a spot here as we make a move on Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, and Zhou is still ahead as we were trying to make a position on Bottas, so he was able to get away and try to close in on Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. And as we're coming through this main straight here, lose a little bit of control every once in a while, but lap 12, we're up ahead of Zhou pretty much the entirety of lap 12, trying to defend against him, but he actually does manage to get the position back. So yeah, I didn't want to show him passing us the first time because that would have been showing the entire lap of us trying to fight for a position. So we do manage to hold off against him for now on the end of lap 12, start of lap 13, and Logan Sargent, our teammate, is up next as he's sitting up in P12. But unfortunately, on lap 14, Sonoda was able to make his way through the grid a little bit, passing Zhou and passing us here on the back straight with DRS. You can see Zhou there in the mirror, getting pretty close as we losing a little bit of control, but we were able to keep it under control for a little bit and stay ahead of Zhou for the meantime. But Sector 2 and lap 15, the next lap, you can see Sonoda that far ahead and Stroll making a move on the inside, holding his line. We go out wide. It's about the third time we've gone out wide in that area. Now we tried to make a move on the inside. We decided to brake a little bit earlier because I knew he wasn't going to back out of that. So Lance Stroll up into P14, pushing us back to P15 here on lap 16, and nothing else has really happened as we're Sector 1 on lap 18. We try to make a move on the inside of Lance Stroll. We have the DRS, we have the momentum on these medium tires as we did start ahead of him, and we're holding him pretty well through this back straight, holding the inside line as best as possible, get a decent launch, but we do lose a little bit of time to Lance Stroll as we're coming out of Maggots and Beckett's in the straight here as I force him to the outside line. I hold the inside line here, and coming down to this last chicane, and he tries to make a move on the inside, but that's not going to be enough. So I hold the inside line here, and I make sure to get a decent enough launch, and we put the power down a little bit too much there as we finish the race, but no points.
All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Plenty of action here at Silverstone, a memorable race and an impressive victory. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. Well, that lead at the top has somewhat shrunk today. Some amazing talent out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Well, for me, it's got to be Lewis Hamilton. The multiple world champion may be the boring choice at this point, but you can't argue that he's a driver deserving of his reputation.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
All right, so a pretty rough finish to our race here, as we did okay until that yellow flag. We were running pretty good, and it seemed like we were on the wrong tire strategy. We should have gone with the mediums to hards, and then saved the soft tire for the safety car. But the safety car probably wouldn't have happened if we went with the medium tires off the start. And what a fight we had with Lance Stroll there at the end, and a fight that is very important to us because we don't know with the Aston Martin livery update, we don't know how much longer Lance Stroll is going to be able to hold his seat. So with that livery change, we might get to see Lawrence Stroll pull from the Aston Martin sponsor. So we might see a pretty big change up here at the end of the season. We're going to try to perform as best as we can to fill that spot. And we'll have to wait and see what we can do, because Fernando Alonso, even though he did finish in P7, gained one position, and our teammate actually did better than us here. P12 with that double stop safety car. But we have a lot of work to get done ahead of us before the end of the season as we lead into the summer break. So can't wait to see what the summer break holds for us and see if there's any driver changes. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.